All I need is one somebody. I just need one somebody to hear me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know y'all wondering, how in the world can Suge Knight do a podcast from jail without becoming a snitch? The thing that he says that he hates. He says he hates snitches. He's been throwing shade for years as Snoop Dogg. But you know what? If Suge wants to do this podcast, let's just let him. He's just going to follow in the footsteps of Keefe D and wind up getting himself some more jail time. Now, Suge is due to be out in jail in 2034. And that's like a crazy sounding number to me, 2034. That's a long time, but that's just actually 10 years. 10 years he'll be out. But you know, Suge is a suspect, but the subject of his podcast is supposed to be blasting his enemies. He's supposed to be blasting Snoop, Dre, Interscope Records, but there's a whole article on that. But before I go to that article, I'm gonna just play for you what he has to say about snitches. Just give me a little.
For a long time.
So they shouldn't model themselves on rap stars with big lawyers.
No, they shouldn't. And besides that, you have certain individuals who's artists, and they might get in trouble. They might do a few things, but they well-known names, and they informant for the police. They snitches.
Snoop Dogg.
And if they get in trouble, they're gonna get a free pass. Like if you hear about it, there's several artists that would never ever come to prison, no matter what they do. You hear about it getting caught, if it's firearms, getting caught with drugs, doing this, doing that.
Like who, you think?
Well, put it to you like this. When you look at it and you think about it, and you see that you watch the news, you follow the people's trials, people's court cases, or you follow what you hear, word of mouth, what you hear about the streets, about the guy getting 25 years because he had $2 piece of crack cocaine on him, or a guy got 10 years because he had a firearm on him. Then you get a guy if it's not personal, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm slandering these guys' names, or if you hear about a lot of the artists, some of them used to be on death row, some on other labels, you might hear them getting caught with drugs, get caught with a gun, stab somebody, do those type of crimes. They're not gonna come to prison. One of the reasons they're not gonna come
like
to prison.
Snoop?
Well, Snoop would never come. I mean, Snoop was on, we beat a murder trial for him, but then he was on probation. Then he got caught with 2 ounces of marijuana. Then he got caught with guns. And each time it's nothing. They're not gonna violate him. Because for the street guys know what I'm talking about. There's no puzzle. I mean, if you get a guy that constantly getting in trouble and never gonna come to prison, that's because he's an informant. He's a rat, a snitch.
Yeah.
And they're more important to the police on the streets than in here, because they let them know what's going on. They might save their soul by telling on 3 or 4 or 5 other guys. I'm from Compton, and a rat is the lowest you can go. A rat will do anything.
But you don't think Snoop was a rat?
I mean, I don't want to make Alice. I don't need to put nobody out there.
Okay.
If I do that, it's like a form of telling. But for the street guys out there, they know. They know this guy never come to prison.
That's
They know
a
the
good
only way
place
to stay out of prison
to
is
stop.
one way. And you look at it, I got 9 years. The judge said he watched the tape 25 times. He couldn't tell if I kicked or just broke it up.
Well,
Victor
I
said
could tell
didn't,
he
but I still
did
got-
kick Keefe, not Keefe, but Orlando, definitely. And Suge is a suspect. Suge is a suspect. He's dirty, and he's been putting out this narrative. I talked about this in another video because I'm calling out all these inconsistencies between his story and Keefe D's story about the night of Tupac's shooting. Suge, for me, he's suspect number one. Even if Keefe D, if you take into account that he was in the car and everybody in that car put their hands on the gun, Suge has always been a suspect. The primary suspect from day one. And with all this arrest of Keefe D. That hasn't changed anything. Suge has his hands all in this. And so y'all got to be wondering, how can Suge do a podcast? It's called Collect Calls from Jail. There's no way for him to do this without spilling tea on himself. I mean, he's supposed to be keeping it about his beefs, calling people out, but he started calling people out. People are going to put him on blast. And I don't know, how do y'all feel about this code of the streets? It doesn't seem to do anybody any good except maybe some gangsters. And I don't even know if it does them any good. It sure has not done Tupac's mother or Biggie Small's mother any good, or their family members, and definitely none of the fans. I don't like seeing this stuff play out. And his motivation for doing it, I mean, he looks like he's going to get himself in a world of trouble. But people tell me, well, I read and I hear that Suge has been able to take care of his ladies even while he's in prison. So maybe he's getting conjugal visits up there and he wants to keep that going. But this don't look like it's going to turn out well for him. But, you know, I don't think we care. I don't think we care if we watch him go down the same path as Keefe D. No problem, because it's probably a lot of bad actors, dirty players out here that need to be behind bars, just like him. I mean, having beefs with people, going to blows, man to man with your fist. If you want to get down like that, that's your call. But like taking somebody's life, just snuffing them out, over what? Over what? But let me get to this article. I should also let this play a little bit here. It's called Suge Knight. Well, let me see who did this article. Man, I don't even see who did the article, but let me just go on. Suge Knight launching Collect Calls podcast from prison. Trailer promises he'll address Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Jimmy Iovine, and more. Okay, the 58-year-old plans to address some of the artists and hip-hop moguls he has issues with, including Master P, Whack 100, Warren G, and Akon. But do we really want to hear that? Actually, I just want to hear him talk about what really happened the night that Tupac lost his life. Well, the night that Tupac got ambushed. And Suge Knight, let me just say this. I talked about this in another video, so please check out my playlist about Tupac. Suge Knight did not get shot in the head. He did not get any direct impact from a bullet. It was all, what do you call that? Just surface wounds. It was no bullet hitting, it was shrapnel. Tupac is the one that got hit. And you know what? Let me just read this article. I'll have to come back because I don't want to just start talking about all these details and mixing stuff out. But here's the article. Suge Knight won't be eligible for parole until October 2023. So he's launching a podcast while still behind bars. That's the way this article is. As reported by TMZ, the Death Row Records co-founder has teamed up with the Breakbeat Media CEO, The Source founder, David Mays, for a podcast entitled Collect Calls with Suge Knight. The duo have already recorded 5 30-minute episodes of the podcast, which is scheduled to launch on October 31st. Some Halloween stuff. Let me go on. Mays told TMZ that Suge plans to address some of the artists and hip-hop moguls he has issues with, including Master P, Whack 100, Warren G, Dr. Dre, and Akon, as well as others. While Collect Calls also promised to see Suge delve further into his thoughts on Snoop Dogg now, who is now owning Death Row brand, the weekly podcast will also see Knight talk about his experiences in the music industry. A trailer for the podcast offers a preview of what Suge has to say about Warren G's comments on Drink Champs earlier this year. Now, I don't know if Suge really has fans. I don't want to just blast the man because he's still a human being. And actually, if it wasn't for all this mess, looking at Suge, he looks like a gentle type of dude. He's not a bad looking dude. And he comes across very gentle, like his name was. sugar bear. He looks like a big sweet bear, but this man has some dirty things going on. And I mean, I'm not a fan of Suge Knight. I'm not a fan of his. And the man has dirt on his hands. He has blood on his hands. And it's mighty strange. It's a funny coincidence that he wants to do this podcast at the same time that Keefe D's being taken into custody. The timing of all this. I mean, Suge has, as you seen in that jailhouse interview, Suge has spoken out on other occasions, but the tempo, he just was talking to TMZ last week about Keefe D and how he wouldn't wish jail on his worst enemy. But then at the same time, he says a snitch is the lowest thing, like it's the most disgusting thing in the world. And he's acting like he's Keefe D's cheerleader. And he's talking about free Keefe D, free Keefe D. How do you go from somebody lighting your car up, at least the car that you were driving, lighting your car up with bullets, and then you're going to be their cheerleader? That's strange. And how is it that you and Keefe D have kind of like the same story? I'm sorry, people. If y'all are interested in his beefs with people, Warren G and Akon, and his beefs with Interscope, I really am not really that concerned about it because it's all a bunch of little messy gangster stuff. It might be interesting. I'm sure curious minds are going to tune in. And actually, I'm going to tune in for the podcast too. But I just want to hear him trip over himself talking about the night of the Tupac shooting. Because what is the most interesting thing about Suge Knight? That he was driving that car when Tupac got those fatal gunshot wounds. And this story that Tupac was trying to jump in the back seat, he and Keefe D both have a story that's almost identical. Even the same lie that's identical. And that is that that Suge got shot in the head. They both say that Tupac tried to jump in the back seat. How could he try to jump in the back seat? And Suge says that he grabbed him and pulled him down and covered him. Oh, my blood starts boiling when I think of it. It's like you're in a little BMW. Do you know how logistically impossible that is? How impossible the whole story is? Again, I have already done a video on this, but I'm just looking forward to Suge Knight tripping over himself and wind up with a life sentence. Because I don't see, unless he has these interviewers, I'm sure they're going to throw him a bunch of softballs. But I'm sure the FBI is going to be listening very attentively, and the Los Angeles Police Department, as well as the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police. They're all going to be listening very carefully. Maybe even, I mean, Suge got a lot of dirt on his hands. And he's probably guilty of a whole bunch of other stuff that he's not even in jail for. I mean, a gangster, the way this man has rolled, just that he has the audacity to do a podcast. Actually, if I get away from my feelings, I have to say it might be entertaining. And I am going to watch, so I should probably just cool it down. But Suge has, ever since this story has came out about Tupac getting shot in Vegas and Suge Knight driving the car and just coming out with a scratch. Please don't believe this story, people, that he took a gunshot to the head, just like the lie that Keefe D said that Suge took a bullet to the head. They're both completely lying. If you research, it might take you a minute. You will find that it was just shrapnel. There was no other bullet wounds. So again, I really want to know what y'all think about this code of the street business, because I don't find that it does anybody any good, and it must not be too much of a code. How can you hate snitches so much? And Keefe D is snitching. I don't have a problem with snitches, because if somebody hurt one of my loved ones or somebody I cared about, I would want somebody to step forward. Snitch, rat. I mean, I could see if rats are like, if you and your brother or your sister did something, it's like, don't tell mama. You have like a code between you, that kind of thing, but not snuffing somebody's life out, just taking them out like over some dumb stuff. But this whole mess with Tupac and this big old cover up and how this started actually on the East Coast. How can this man at this young age, that Tupac is not a gangster. He just grew up poor, struggling, and hustling. The man has been an artist since he was a teenager. All through high school, he's been a dancer, a poet, and an artist. He is not no bad kid. Besides smoking some marijuana, which is legal in most places, he's never done any hard drugs. Tupac is not a gangster. His whole thug life is about coming up hard in the streets. So how is it that this man at this age have somebody trying to wipe his life out on the East Coast? And then he goes to jail, and then he gets out of jail with the assistance of Suge Knight. In less than a year on the West Coast, his life is just snuffed out. It's some extra players in this game. But yeah, y'all tell me what y'all think. I would appreciate it very much. And please do check out my playlist. And yeah, I guess I'll see y'all the next time. That's it for me. I will keep up with this story, and I will be laying out all of the suspicious details that Keefe D and other people have given up, and details that people have not given up, details that it's impossible for Suge Knights security detail not to have seen. They definitely seen a lot more than they fessing up to. But again, that tired code, I don't know what it's good for. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I'll see y'all the next time. Until then, y'all keep living your life like it's golden. Peace.